Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the Irresistible Attraction Seasonal Event, which is an alternate game mode in which whenever we play a unit, we will steal a random unit from our opponent's side with the same amount of power. Today we're trying an alternate version of a strong deck that we used before, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Syndicate hidden cash deck that focuses on playing low power cards that are very difficult for our opponent to steal, that also damage our opponent's cards to drop them down into that low power range, taking away our opponent's units and making it very hard for them to steal those cards back. So in general, the magic number is 3, because very few cards start with 3 power, making those cards very hard for our opponent to steal, and then with things like the Mutant Killer, we can damage our opponent's cards by 1, meaning that we can steal a 4 power card, or if we have coins, we can damage them by 3, meaning that we can steal 6 power cards by knocking those down to 3 power. So basically, that is the main focus of the deck, having a bunch of different cards that are specialized for stealing your opponent's cards depending on how many points they're worth. So in this case, the Mutant Killer can either steal a 4 power card or a 6 power card, and rather than immediately activating our leader ability at the start of the round, we'll wait to see whether we want to have that if we want that extra damage. Ransackers can steal a 5 power card, Wolfpack can also steal a 4 power card, and then if our opponent plays something much bigger, we can use Rico to steal that. Then we have more 3 power cards like Wolf School Trio for a decent point slam. Then the Eternal Fire Disciple, which is one of the few engines that is relatively safe in this event because it's much harder for your opponent to steal it since it's on just 3 power. Oxenfurt Naturalist, which you can use to spend a few coins to power up your cards in case they get damaged down to 2 or 1 power. Just remember that you don't want your cards to get up to 4 or 5 power because then it becomes much easier for your opponent to steal them. Then we also have the 3 power Kikimore Warrior, which we can use to either consume Duchess's Informants or other spies that our opponent might play, or once we have 7 coins, since we're using hidden cash, the Flying Redanian will come out, and that means we could consume the Flying Redanian with the Kikimore Warrior. The Flying Redanian will come back out from our graveyard at the end of our turn, and that means we can consume it again on our next turn with the Kikimore Warrior, which means you get an extra 3-point body every turn. Then if your opponent plays something really big and you've already used Rico, or if for whatever reason Rico's power doesn't match up with the power of that unit that you're trying to steal, you can use Geralt to remove it altogether. We can also start rounds with Tainted Ale, which is especially useful on blue coin, because that way you don't immediately have a unit that your opponent can steal, and this damage also makes it easier for you to weaken and steal or just outright destroy your opponent's cards. And then because Tainted Ale is a popular card in this event, we can potentially get an extra copy of it, or if our opponent doesn't have that, or some other artifact, then this card that I'm not even going to try to pronounce gets boosted up to a 9, giving us a solid point slam. If you play this card though, make sure that you've either confirmed that your opponent has an artifact, or if you haven't, make sure that you still have Rico and or Geralt, that way you can either steal this card back, or destroy it if it ends up on your opponent's side of the board. Then finally, against opponents that are using similar low-powered decks, you can use Regis as your finisher to potentially get a whole bunch of damage at the end of the round. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it's all about stealing your opponent's cards while keeping your cards so low that they are difficult for your opponent to steal them back. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here, and they'll go first. Alright, so let's get rid of our second Wolf School Witcher. Other than that, we want to have a mixture of cards that can steal a mixture of powered cards from our opponent, like Wolfpack steals 4s. Mutant Killer potentially steals a 4, although can also steal a 6 if we have 2 coins. You can steal a 5, you can steal a 3, you can steal a 3, you can steal either a 3 or a 9. This is not really meant for stealing. And then you're just an engine that's relatively safe. And Necromancy, it's not really a round 1 card. Oh, okay, well, I did kind of ask for that. Okay, Smuggler at 4 power. Actually, am not a very big fan of the boosting, because we like to keep our cards low, and the hand buff makes that very unpredictable. But we could, rather than immediately using our leader ability here, we could use either Mutant Killer, or I thought we had, yeah, Wolfpack. I think we might go Mutant Killer here, depending on... we have other ways to steal 6s beyond just Mutant Killer. No, okay, it's our only way to do that. So let's go Wolfpack in that case. So I would prefer that this gets moved into our range row. Good. Because I don't want the hand buff. Okay, Gabor at 5 is stealable. With you. Now, we could use leader ability now, and that would get us up to the threshold to gain coins from this. However, want to maintain that flexibility, not use this yet, because we may want this to be a 1 damage Mutant Killer, we might want it to be a 3 damage Mutant Killer, we don't know yet. So, gonna maintain that flexibility by waiting to do that. Okay, Tried Matron at 4, so there you go. They have primarily 4s, and at this point, we have enough cards on our side of the board that we might even... I mean, that is an engine, so we really should take it. I was gonna say, we only have so many cards that can steal 4 power units. Or we could wait for this to buff something else up and steal something a little bit bigger with Mutant Killer. It's relying a bit on our opponent doing just the right amount of boosting, so maybe that's still a little bit too risky. Yeah, we'll keep it simple. We'll go Mutant Killer here. I'm just a little concerned about us losing all of our best stealing cards in this round. Okay, Giant Slayer. It's going after you. You're a 9. Okay, I have an idea. So eventually, it will get the death blow there. However, we might actually be able to steal this. It depends on if they have an artifact in their starting deck or not. If they don't, then you'll get boosted up to a 9, and we will steal this, which is pretty valuable, and probably wins us the round right there. If not, then we just play whatever artifact you happen to have, and who knows what that's going to be. So we shall see what happens here. That's not what I wanted to see. Okay. Fine. Be that way. Alright, I guess... Oh, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. If I were paying closer attention, 7, 8... Yeah, it still wouldn't have quite added up for the Catwitcher Mentor, though it was kind of close. Otherwise, it might be a Catwitcher, although that's very stealable. I don't love it. In fact, I think I will go Catwitcher Mentor, because I think that 7's going to be harder for them to steal. Unless they do that. Now it's going to be much easier for them to steal. Okay, so this is why we want to be keeping things low, because that's a very valuable play for them, and we don't like that. We were doing amazingly until we gave them a card that they could steal, and that it was in large part because I did take a risk. I was very much hoping they were not going to have any artifacts. Let's go Hidden Cache now. It's waited a long time to do that. We're going to go Oxenfurt Naturalist. I'm actually not going to put it here because we don't want to get it boosted up to a 4, otherwise it becomes stealable as well. And we're going to put at least 2 turns of Vitality on Gabor. Because that way, even if they pass here, we can pass at the end of our turn and still be fine, even after this damage. Okay, they're going with their Syndicate Castle. That's why I did not want to play Catwitcher, because ours would have gotten stolen here. But they don't steal anything. Okay, that was very fortunate that they happened to hit our perhaps most important card there, the Naturalist. Because now it does become much more difficult for us to protect Gabor. If that lasted one more turn, we could have safely gotten Kikimore Warrior on the board and could use the order ability, eat Gabor, turn it into a Kikimore Warrior, and avoid getting the resilience on the Giant Slayer. And at this point, obviously, as we were seeing before, we bricked the Wolf School Trio, which really stinks. Eternal Fire Disciple would be the only thing we could consider playing here, and you could actually put it here and give yourself a way to get extra boost from the Tried Matron. But I think we just need to bail. And we were on red coin, so it's not the end of the world. We should just barely avoid the resilience from this Giant Slayer, getting the death blow on Gabor. Unless they play an extra card to do that. I mean, in that case, they're going to go 2 cards down to win round 1. And that is perhaps going to negate the effectiveness. Oh, also they'll steal with that 1 power bug. For what it's worth, that is a bug. Stealing 1 power cards when you play a special or an artifact. It's not technically supposed to happen, although it is very much a thing. So, okay, they win round 1, they go 2 cards down, but they do have some resilience. Alright, now we want to put one of the Wolf School Trio back into our deck, and we'd like to put Flying Redanian back into our deck as well. Okay, they're pushing. Sort of. Not sure what this is about. More hand buff. And once again, we have actually a couple ways to steal here. We could go Rico, although that is really flexible. We'd probably like to save him. We, as I was saying, did use a whole lot of our stealing cards in round 1, so we don't have a lot of those left. Ransackers does work, though, because you have that armor. You're functionally as if we're hitting a 5, which is the number that the Ransacker steals. So I think we can also just do this immediately. That means we'll get the extra coinage from doing this. And once again, I'd probably prefer that you go in the range row, so we don't get the hand buff, because I don't really want that. Because now we have a bit of a liability with this 4-point Oxenfurt Naturalist, who is much easier for our opponent to steal. However, if they try to bleed further, we could have serious card advantage in round 3. and a bunch of last say as well, which is so meaningful in this event. Okay, so now I think what we do here is we just go Eternal Fire Disciple, and we technically should sort of row stack, because that way we're minimizing the damage on the Cat Witcher. The fact that they have Cat Witchers and other movement stuff suggests that they might have a Gezras, in which case we really don't want to be row stacking in the melee row. I mean, we technically could move. Tell you what, that's what we'll do. We'll use this, and then we'll do that. I mean, technically we could have hit you, I suppose. That probably would have been preferable. But now we can do this. And we'll get the boat out. And we are row stacking here, which is better. But yeah, this is... They're going to have Gezras, right? And when they play him, we'll seal him with Rico. That's what he's going to be useful for. I wish you weren't a 4, because it would be really nice to keep this Eternal Fire Disciple alive right about now. But otherwise, I was going to say the Kikimore Warrior would be really nice, because we can use that to consistently eat the Zealots, or whatever other cards happen to get hit by the Cat Witcher and whatever other sources of damage they might have. Actually, technically, Flying Redanian is best, as long as you have enough coins to continually get it to return, which is currently the case. So that is what I'm going to do. Technically, we kind of like to go melee row with this, because we're going to use a bunch of board space, but we will see. Okay, so now we do this. And as long as we don't spend any coins here, or we gain additional coins at the end of our turn, then we will get the boat back out, and we can continue this process indefinitely. Problem is, we're running out of good things to play. Oh, actually, that Tried Matron is going to mess with our stealing cards, or even the Double Thumb Sentry. Both these cards will boost the unit that they play, and that means that Rico is not quite going to match up properly. So that's a bit of an issue. We do have Eskel and the rest of the Wolf School trio, which we might want to do here, and that might mean that we do, in fact, go melee row for a bit of a point slam. Boat comes back out, as we were saying. Figgis actually is what they go for. But for what it's worth, we could play Rico now, steal a 7-point Matron or that Figgis, which is not a terrible thing. Rico is definitely a very nice card to have in case of emergency, but as I was saying, the movement engines make it very tricky to match power, so Rico might not be as good of a card in this matchup, and we might need to just take this opportunity to capitalize on him. So let's do this, at the very least. Let's get Rico, and I think we will use him here. Either that, or I mean, we technically could steal the Double Thumb Sentry. I mean, any of those things probably give us enough points that we're not too worried going forward. Tell you what, I am going to do this. Steal you technically means we can still spend both of those and be okay, because boat will still come out. And they could play Gezras here. It won't steal any of those things back, assuming this last card is Gezras. Technically, they'd want to have played him earlier if it was him, so I don't think that's what their last play is. Basically, I'm just trying to dissuade them from playing any further in this round, although they do play. And I am curious what this is then. It's Zoltan for Resilience. I think that's a pretty bad idea, because it's clearly not enough to threaten us here. Sure, you get what will be 4 points of carryover, but at the cost of additional cards in round 3, so we'll just pass, and we'll win the round with 3-card advantage. Okay, and suddenly we get all of our tutors, which is probably okay if they happen to play something big, which could be a risk in a short round. Then Geralt is a good card for us to play. We did keep Rico, which, especially now that they've played a lot of their movement engines, might make it a little bit easier for us to match the power of the unit that they play. And then the Naturalist, I don't love it at 5 power, but since we have a whole bunch of last say here, this could still be a pretty solid finisher for us. And if we get enough coins, we can still use Kikimore Warrior plus boat. And obviously the bank and Oneiromancy give us a lot of flexibility, so I think we're okay here. That's what we'd like to begin with. It might be the Warrior, and maybe Hidden Cash as well, which gets us 1 coin away from getting boat out. I think we can probably make that happen soon enough. Alright, it's a Cat Witcher. It's going to hit this Warrior. which means we would very much like to have something immediately for this warrior to eat, so that we create a new one that is not on 1 power, which we may be able to do with Vivaldi Bank here. Otherwise, yeah, or Oneiro, we certainly could. What would our preference be? We could hit you. In fact, we probably should go Wolfpack right now. I think that is pretty ideal. Or yeah, Oneiro, or rather Necro into a Wolfpack, or Tainted Ale is also not bad. But the point is, no, actually, getting a unit is preferable for sure. But you do this. +1 points in the short term. We get a new body for the Kikimore Warrior, so it's not as vulnerable as it once was, and we now have an engine that we didn't have before. That yen is not great, because we have a bunch of low power cards that would be a pretty huge factor if this round weren't about to end, and if we didn't have several cards that could steal it. So I think we do go Oxenfurt Naturalist here. We'll steal yen, we'll do this, and we should now have enough coins to get the boat back out. We have a pretty huge lead. If they do happen to steal yen, then we should be able to steal back with Rico, so that's not really a concern. If they play something huge, then we still have Geralt. So I think in just about any situation, we should now win this. And it is Gezras. We anticipated he might show up. It means you do steal one of those guys. And with the damage there, we are tied. But we don't even need to use yen right now. We could just Rico and potentially steal that Gezras. So, sure. Why? I mean, technically we don't know definitively unless... Actually, if we Necromancy, we can make it definitive, can't we? So we go Ransackers, hits you, and you're the only 3 power card, and then there's no way they can catch us. So I think we do that. Ransackers, hit you, steal you. Now we can do this, and do this, and we have definitely won the match. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and they'll go first. Okay, so first of all, let's put the boat back into our deck, and then we're looking at trying to get cards that can steal a mixture of powers on our opponent's side. Mutant Killer can steal 4s or 6s, depending on whether we have that Horde active or not. Wolfpack also steals 4, Tidecloak steals 5. Don't have a lot of stealing 5 situations here, maybe we dump... well. Obviously we don't want Best Boy in hand. That's a little bit unfortunate, although I guess we can mulligan him out and get him back in a future round. Just hope this round doesn't go long enough that we're going to be forced into playing him. Okay, well, they're mill. So that's lovely. And by that I mean that it is not lovely. But why don't we go Wolfpack first? And so we're going to drop this card down to a 2 and steal it, which should make it fairly difficult for our opponent to steal it back. But I can't say that I'm surprised that we are seeing more of the Kingslayers. Now we can steal this one as well. We can do that with a Mutant Killer. I deliberately did not use our leader ability yet because that gives us some flexibility here. We actually prefer that we only get 1 damage on this occasion. And we can use this later on if we find ourselves in need of activating that extra damage on the second Mutant Killer. Okay, it's Practitioner at 5. Which we should be able to steal with this Ransackers. And on this occasion, maybe we do activate leader ability, and that way we get a few extra coins from the Ransackers. It's not strictly necessary, but it's a little bit of a bonus. Okay, now Informants goes for a Kingslayer, which won't steal anything, so again, it's, well, not doing a very good job of catching us. And because we stole these Kingslayers, I mean, they might have been trying to use something like teleportation to replay them, but they couldn't do it until they used this Informant. We could steal you as well with this Mutant Killer, although we're starting to run a little bit low on good stealing cards, so I'm a little hesitant to commit that here. What we could do instead would be play a Kikimore Warrior and use that to eat this Informant, turn it into a 3 power card instead, because who knows, they might be about to use a coup on that Informant, although technically they do need to catch us pretty soon here. So maybe, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go Disciple. That is an engine. It's an engine that's a little bit tough for them to steal because it is at 3 power, but I deliberately did not use that fee ability because that got us right up to the number for getting the boat. Now, they might be able to steal a 3 here. Now, we just don't want them to steal boat, which I'm sure I've now jinxed. Okay. They did happen to get both zealots, or well, one they created and the other one they happened to steal. So they did get very lucky there because that was the one engine. But we do still have more 3s, so we could just play this Naturalist and steal one of those guys. And they do not have good coin generation here, so it's not as if that remaining disciple is going to do much of anything. So we could use a couple of charges here. Now, I'm deliberately not going to bring anything up to 4 power, so just boosting up the guys that are on 2 power to maintain the difficulty of stealing. And they'll pass. So we'll win round 1 on even. And since they're mill, we technically should probably try to 2-0 them, otherwise they might remove enough cards from our deck that we can't play a full round 3. So if that is the case, I mean, we should probably put Best Boy back into our deck. We can lead off with Tainted Ale, that is a good round starter. And, I mean, these 2 tutors are usually things you'd want to kind of avoid against mill. So you could potentially make a case for mulliganing them out, but if we use them early enough, or they were not that successful with their mill in round 1. So as long as we do win this 2-0, then we should still be fine. Let's start with that Tainted Ale, because what this does is by not playing a unit on this first turn, they can't steal anything, whereas we can, of course, potentially steal whatever they play on their first turn, like that Diviner. Because we could go... we actually do have enough coins here that this would activate the extra damage. So we could just destroy you. That is an option, although we'd probably prefer to save this for more important targets. So why don't we just use Wolfpack here? We'll steal ya. Now, Glynis. That's obviously a pretty big card. They're going to use their leader ability. And Oneiro is obviously very valuable. This is going to boost up Glynis, but that armor could make it a little bit tricky for us to steal her. Okay, this would technically be, yeah, Wolfpack that they should go for here. To get back the Diviner. Now, we could pass at almost any point in time here if we wanted to. The reason why we looked to push in the first place was because we suspected that they were trying to mill out more cards from our deck. But if they're going more pure Assimilate, then we could just end the round whenever we want. However, we do have Oneiro, which we could use to get Geralt. Now, Glynis is not quite big enough to be in removal range just yet, but Glynis is close. So maybe we go Mutant Killer here and just destroy this engine. Don't necessarily need to steal. I guess we'll use Hidden Cash because the Mutant Killer was the primary place where that mattered, and since we played him, then we didn't need to get the precise amount of damage with just the no horde ability. We're fine there. They'll steal Best Boy, but honestly, the big thing here is that they are using some pretty important cards to win this round, so we're effectively bleeding out things like Linus and Anna Henrietta, and that leader ability, realistically, they're going to have almost no way to get benefit out of that. And we are much more prepared to steal at 3 power than they are. So we could, for example, go with the Kikimore Warrior here, steal one of those 3 power cards back, and on our next turn, if this doesn't get stolen, consume that Duchess's Informants. And although we aren't in the lead right now, because we won round 1, they need to keep on playing. This is more along the lines of what I expected to see them use. Okay, now that is a big loss, though. That will steal something, and it also gets rid of our best way to answer Glynis, and I was planning to use it, well, on probably this turn. So that might be reason enough for us to stop playing in this round unless Tainted Ale could give us a total of 6 damage, which would drop Glynis down to a 6, which actually after using that Mutant Killer is no longer possible for us to steal Glynis at that number. So yeah, I think we do pass here, but the benefit is that they've used most of their strong cards here. And I think they did mill one of our Wolf School trio, but we do still have one more there. So that's not too bad. But we need to be careful now, holding on to Oneiro and Vivaldi Bank. Both of those could get bricked if they thin out additional cards from our deck. In fact, as long as we don't draw into Eskel, then we might be best served going with this. That way, we've only one tutor left. I think that's probably best. And by Eskel, I mean Lambert. Okay, like that's exactly why I got rid of one of our other tutors. Okay, that's unfortunate. So we would have gotten a little more value out of Vesemir. Now he's just a 3-point card. We should probably get the Naturalist out here as soon as possible, in case they do have more mill. I mean, they've used just about everything for mill purposes. They could use at this point, you would think. We could steal you, but I think we kind of have to do this now. So we'll get the Naturalist out, and that should max out our coinage. Which means we're going to get boat out here. And now what we would like to do, unless they disrupt this, which they might be able to do with that Necromancy. They will, in fact. Okay. We can steal 3 more easily than they can steal 3, though. So not too worried about that. And they might regret putting Vitality on cards, because that may make it easier for us to steal the cards that we want to steal. Because now we'll go Kikimore Warrior. We'll get you back. Okay, that's not a huge deal. We would like to consume the Redanian basically every turn. That way he's going to keep on coming back. And we get basically 3 free points every turn. And as long as we can find a way to get a 1 power card in that row, we're actually okay with them creating as many Zealots as they'd like. Because we have Regis. Yeah, I don't like that, though. I hate that, though. So now if we play a 3 power card, we have a 50-50 chance of stealing one of those. If we were to go with some damage, we could hit the Naturalist and then guarantee we get the Redanian. Still don't love that, because this would be our best way to set up Regis going forward. So we might take our chances here on Vesemir and or you. I mean, I don't think we've seen them play an artifact yet, so this might actually get boosted up. That might be a finisher in that case. So let's go Vesemir here. Okay, it's not really what we wanted to see, because we don't have a great target to consume here. In that case, we really are looking for the boat there. Okay, Dazbog Runestone. And they might destroy the warrior would be the best option. Okay, that was silly of them. Well, debatable. But now let's use the Ransackers, because that can give us a 1 power card in that row, which is what we want to see. And it cannot consume itself. So they aren't going to be able to avoid this being on 1 power. So now we eat the Redanian. Redanian will come back out at the end of our turn, and we're going to get an extra warrior every turn. Okay, but can they do something with Oneiro to disrupt that combo? They'll try, and with Experimental Remedy, I bet they can, but are they going to be smart enough about it to execute properly? Not really, or they didn't really have a way to guarantee it. Because now we can continue to do this. And we could play Rico. I mean, we're not really seeing many great options here to steal on 3. It would be one of those Ransackers, which is not terrible. We don't know if we're going to get an artifact out of this. If not, it's 9 points, and we want to be careful of making sure that they can't steal a 9-point unit, because if they do, then we could be in a lot of trouble. So for that reason, we should probably wait. They might have a Rico of their own, so I think we probably play Rico here. Steal that. And now Regis, unfortunately, does not have great setup here, because they don't have very many small cards in that row, but we'll see what they do on this occasion. They're going to try to steal again, but because we have so many 3s, it's hard for them to get a specific 3, and at this point, we've already gotten decent value from the Warriors consuming the Redanian. Obviously, if we can get a couple more turns out of that, that would be better still. They'll try. They're doing it the wrong way, though. Okay, so now we consume here. Although, actually, before we do that... Ooh. A few more units in that row. This is going to be the Regis turn. So just make sure we get the initiative on Regis. So, not bad. We'll consume you. And then this is our finisher, because it's the card that we're most concerned about getting stolen, and I suspect that that's Rico. And it means that, okay, fine. If they steal 3 power card, it's not a huge deal. Boat comes back. No, it's Yenvo. Not that that's going to make a big difference. And so we have already won without using another Kikimore Redanian combo or our last card. So there's a look at a Syndicate deck for the new Irresistible Attraction Seasonal Event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. And take a look at our Irresistible Attraction playlist to see previous decks that we've used in this event as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.